Am I the asshole for wanting to divorce my husband and everyone in my family is telling me not to? I, 38F, and my husband, 41M, have been together for 12 years and married for 10. We have a 8-year-old daughter and I want to leave him. The problem is, because it's not over anything dramatic, so my family are extremely against it. I'm Korean American, 2nd gen, and my husband is 1st gen, and in Korea men do zero housework. My friends who are immigrants are shocked any man does any housework. I'm raised more in an equal family. My mom and dad are both doctors and both do some of the housework, but my mom definitely does more. I didn't live in a huge city for medical school and residency, so honestly, my husband was one of like 10 Koreans man my age there. My ex was white and I loved him, also a medical student at the time, but my parents refused to let me marry him because he wasn't Korean. I really regret it. I married my husband because my parents wanted it and he was close by and the right age. We don't get along. He was raised very traditional and wasn't expected to ever wash a plate. He is by Western standards pretty sexist, but life was okay until he was laid off 2 years ago because he was busy, and so I felt like I had to do all the housework. He was in tech but worked on something that has been depreciated and had a hard time finding new work. He made 6 figures in his previous role but now struggles to make the same. We could move, but he refuses to as to be close to his family. His family really doesn't like me as I'm an emergency room doc and have call, so I sometimes can't be home to tuck my child in. He never did any housework before the layoff and now he still doesn't, but maybe because I let it go for so long he thinks because I want him to do it now is me looking down on him now that he isn't working because he sees it as demeaning him. My MIL was a SOM her whole life and doesn't believe a career and motherhood goes together. However, everyone knows I make most and now all of the money, and it makes her hate me because she feels like her son is being emasculated. And he feels like that too, so he puts me down about how I'm a bad mother when I go to shifts that require him to be at home with our daughter. I think he might be suffering from depression, but he and his family don't believe in mental health and has yelled at me for suggesting seeing a therapist. The last straw was last weekend. I came home after a conference and the house was a mess and my daughter had only eaten McDonald's and frozen pizzas because my husband refused to cook. I bought all the ingredients and it was extremely simple to make a fried rice. I even cooked the rice. Even though I was on for plus 60 hours a week, I do all the cooking, cleaning, and most of the childcare as I picked her up and drop her off from school. I will admit I was against divorce until my friend divorced. She suffered a pretty toxic marriage for 15 years and divorced 2 years ago. She is now so much happier and tells me it's way better than being with her ex. I want to leave, but my family is extremely against it as no one in my family is divorced and it is seen as extremely taboo. They say I will ruin my child if I do, and my parents told me they won't help me do anything if I leave because I'm shaming them. I'm torn, but I can't stand this anymore, and I've told my husband at least 4 times I want a divorce, and he just says he has no idea why I want it even when I spell out in bullet point what he needs to do to make things right. Then he just ignores them and complains I nag when I point out what he's doing wrong. My mom is always telling me I must not be communicating, but I have many times and I'm just ignored.
Am I the asshole for telling my husband that he will lose the privilege to name our daughter if he gives his parents $45,000? My husband, Gary, M41, and I, F38, are expecting our first child in a little more than 3 months. As you can imagine, things have been quite hectic as we prepare. Overall, Gary is an excellent spouse. However, he has an issue regarding his relationship with his parents. Gary's family lived in extreme poverty for most of his life. It was so bad that his parents would regularly skip meals so that he and his brothers had enough to eat, and they came close to homelessness several times. Fortunately, Gary and his brothers were all able to secure good, stable jobs and have worked hard to pull their parents out of poverty. The biggest issue I have with Gary is that he spends excessively on his parents. Around the time we met, he had just taken out a mortgage on a nice house for them. This strained our relationship at the time because I didn't want him to make any major financial commitments to other people before we were married. This was perhaps the biggest example until now. In the past few weeks, I've noticed Gary talking a lot with his brothers about buying something else for their parents. I was curious, so I asked him, and he mentioned something about how he and his brothers wanted to buy a car for their parents since their old one was starting to have issues. I asked him not to spend too much because we're expecting a baby and don't know what expenses will arise in the coming months. He reassured me that he wouldn't. For the past 2 weeks or so, Gary has been working later than usual. I even overheard him telling a friend in our neighborhood that he needed to work longer hours because he was about to make a major purchase. I'll admit this next part may seem wrong, but I was frustrated with his late hours, so I logged onto his home laptop. I saw that on Tuesday he made a $45,000 wire transfer. Of course, I was fuming seeing he spent that much, and my curiosity got the better of, so I checked out his WhatsApp, also on his computer, and read some of the messages he was sending his brothers. Turns out they are preparing to drop around $105,000 on a car called a G90 for their parents. Gary sent the $45,000 to his brother who lives in the same city as their parents. I saw a few pictures of the specific car, and read some of the messages he was sending the dealership rep about fully on board, and all this made me feel sick to my stomach. When Gary came home, I did confront him about this. I said that he he was being irresponsible for spending that kind of money without consulting me, and that I wanted him and his brothers to cancel the whole thing for the time being. Gary became very defensive and started saying that we had more than enough money in case of an emergency, and that he'd work overtime the next few weeks so that he could make it back. We argued. I called him a liar. He said I broke his trust by going through his computer. I got so angry, angrier than I've ever been, and I told him that since he spent this kind of money without telling me, he lost the privilege to name our daughter. He got frustrated by this and just said I was being too much. We ended up not eating together, and we even slept separately last night. We have also not spoken since, as he ended up leaving extra early for work today. I personally think he's being too stubborn, but my best friend thinks I'm too harsh and that I should apologize. AITA context. For those wondering, last year according to his taxes he made about 763k. Give or take this year, he should be making around the same amount. My issues are that he went behind my back, and 45 is still a massive amount of money. My 23M boyfriend held me 19F underwater during a bath to prove a point, and I'm still shaken. I'm 19F and have been with my boyfriend 23M for over a year now. We come from different countries and religions, but made it work. I have to mention this. My boyfriend loves turning everything into a competition. We both go to the gym, and he's always like, who can do this better? Even at home, he's always asking, cook better, clean faster, you name it. A week ago, we were relaxing in the bathtub together. He asked who I thought could hold the other underwater the longest. I found it weird and just brushed it off as one of his usual questions. Just 2 to 3 minutes later, he got up as if to get out of the bathtub and suddenly pushed me underwater. He kept me under for what felt like more than 20 seconds. When he finally let go, he started laughing. I'm generally healthy, but I have a heart condition that requires daily medication to keep my heart rate normal. Without meds, my heart rate go up to 140 to 150 bpm. Even with meds, sudden situations like this can make my heart rate spike to 140 and stay between 110 to 120 for the next few days. He knows this. He brought up what happened today and said he apologized, which he did, and that I should get over it. I'm trying. He said he was trying to prove a point, that I need to work on myself more. It doesn't make sense to him because he's naturally stronger than me, and no matter how much I work out, I can't always defend myself against everything successfully. I can't talk to my sister or mother about it. They just ask what I was doing in a bathtub with a guy in the first place, and I still don't have friends here. It's only him, and we've talked about it more than once, and he says if I did this to him, he would have found it funny. I don't know if I just need to loosen up more, but I don't understand how holding underwater for that long was ever funny in his head. He's also complaining now about the marks I left on his wrist/arm, almost faded. I didn't too. It was sudden and I swallowed a bit of water, and I was freaking out and just wanted him to let go. I apologized for this, but told him it was a natural reaction to what he did.
Am I the asshole for punching my stepdaughter after she played a prank on me that scared me? I know the title sounds bad, but please read and throw away, plus fake names. I 38M married Judd 44F a few years ago, and I acquired a stepdaughter, AB 14F, as a result. I dated Judd when AB was 8, meet her when she was 9, and married Judd when she was 10. I'd say our relationship is oak. She doesn't act bratty towards me and respects me enough as her mom's husband. However, there is one glaring issue about her, and that is her pranking nature. Abby loves to pull pranks. Some examples are her hiding my car keys with what looked like 100 dubs in a box. I found them quickly because she failed to notice my keys have duct tape on them. Another one is when she hid in the fridge, something I still find very weird, to scare the first person who opened it. Well, last Wednesday I arrived home and it seemed that I was the one there. Only my shoes were at the doorstep, and I even called out Judd's and AB's names with no answer. This is somewhat normal as Judd sometimes works late, AB stays at school for extracurriculars. So I screwed around with my dog, a German Shepherd and Husky mix for anyone that will ask, for a bit, and then I decided to relive by myself. When I got to the bathroom, I noticed that the window cabinet was open. I thought nothing of it at first and unzipped my pants, but then I saw a shadow behind the shower curtains. I thought the worst and immediately punched the figure behind the curtains. Well, as everyone may have guessed it from the title, it was AB. She was making a prank video, and I had not noticed that she propped her phone up on the bathroom cabinet with 2 cups. I'm not gonna lie, I did not hold back. I punched her as hard as I could. Her nose looked broken, and when I realized it, I flipped out, and so did she. After maybe 5 minutes of freaking out, I drove her to urgent care and informed Judd of the situation. Her nose was indeed broken and would need about 6 to 12 weeks of recovery. AB won't talk to me, and as for Judd, she thinks that my action may have been justified, but also thinks I should have approached with more caution, which she has refused to elaborate on. So am I the asshole?